Hey there, entrepreneurs. My name is Sushant, and welcome to Trep Talks. This is the show where I interview successful e-commerce entrepreneurs, business executives, and thought leaders, and ask them questions about their business story, and also dive deep into some of the strategies and tactics that they have used to start and grow their businesses. And today, I'm really excited to welcome Olguy Songolo to the show. Olguy is the founder, CEO, and developer of The Difference. And this is a brand, the very first heelless running shoe brand. And we're going to learn a little bit more about the product and what it is really about. And today I'm going to ask Olguy a few questions about his entrepreneurial journey and some of the strategies and tactics that he has used to start and grow his business. So thank you so much, Olguy, for joining us today at Trip Talks, and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. It's always an honor and a pleasure. Please, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so let's begin with the product itself. Can you share a little bit about, what, I mean, this is a new concept of shoe. Can you share what your product really is, what is different about it, about this particular shoe, and what is it that helps the customers?
Here it is.
Perfect.
Here it is.
There's
The
no
first
heel.
thing you'll notice when you see this shoe, no heel. And that is what creates the difference. When we start talking about how everything started off, you will understand it. But what makes us unique is we remove the heel of a shoe, of a conventional shoe, which causes a lot of musculoskeletal injuries, which I will break down as we go through this interview. But this you're actually seeing right now, this didn't even come out yet. This is the all limited editions, all black.
So this is the new design or new color?
This is the new design. I changed a lot of things in this one. Oh man, I really put some foot forward into this design. It still has the same characteristics as the other shoe. But what I did is I changed a little bit of the material to make it aesthetically look pleasing. I did a lot of tweaks because now my experience in manufacturing and also distribution has really gotten to me to a point where now I know exactly how I want to do it. And spending a year in China, you kind of learn some things.
So I'm interested, like what, so yeah, I mean, so you said that it helps people with some, minimizing pain and things. So do you categorize this more as kind of like a therapeutic kind of a product?
So to really understand what this shoe does, it's not necessarily therapeutic. This is a shoe that eliminates musculoskeletal injuries. And when you say that, it sounds so broad, it sounds so adverse, and can sound a little bit stinging for someone that doesn't understand science. When I talk about musculoskeletal injuries, I talk about things that we normally have on a regular basis, whether you're an avid athlete or not. For example, shin splints, which is known as plantar fasciitis, flat feet, knee problems, back problems, right? These are all musculoskeletal injuries that occur. And for a long period of time, we really didn't understand why these injuries were occurring. And we thought that it was because of us. No, it was because of what we're wearing and what we're doing as an activity. And hence the reason why we came up with the heelless technology, because this technology has literally innovated and disrupted everything that you know about the shoe industry. And it's exciting because think about it, right? For the avid runner that now can run and not worry about having a knee pain or back pain after 34 miles, for the grandfather or grandmother that wants to take her children out for a walk and not worry about her plantar fasciitis hurting her.
Mm-hmm.
And for just the avid person that just wants to sit there and say, hey, I want to keep myself healthy and happy. It takes a lot of innovation, creativity to step into that realm, which that's what researchers does. And once we step into that conversation, it's going to be more interesting. But the one thing I pride myself on in these shoes is we have disrupted the shoe industry. It's a shoe without the heel.
And is there like some research, some actual science behind it?
Of course, there's science behind it.
Yeah. So my question would be, when you think about like these brands like Nike and Adidas, and is it more that your shoe targets more like people who are older, who are more prone to those kind of injuries that you mentioned? Maybe people who are more, on a heavier weight side, because a company like Nike or Adidas who are also doing like the same thing, like a technical shoe where they're creating these shoes that are designed towards runners or people with sports things, and the idea is that it helps them to do their activities. um, is this really just a different idea based on the same thing? Like how is it different from, let's say, someone who would buy more of a expensive brand name shoes?
That's a great question. Think of it this way. Why is it different? Anything that's innovative has to be different, right? What we've done is we saw a niche and what a problem is, and we solved it.
Okay.
I can't talk about other brands because other brands, I'm sure they have their researchers trying to figure out what they're trying to do. I can talk about what we've done and why we've gotten this far, because this is not something that happened overnight. This is a research that happened since 20, 30 years ago.
Okay.
And we solidified. Yes. Are they now starting to understand what we're doing? Yes, they are. Because you have to understand, shoes were not meant to be as a preventative measure. It was not meant to be as something that was supposed to be performance. No, shoes were just meant to what? Look good. If you understand the history of shoes, first of all, it was to protect feet.
Yeah.
Let's start off with that. It was meant to protect feet.
Yeah.
Then it went on to, well, it looks good. And then it went on to literally like, well, if this person wears it, it became a marketing base. If this person wears it, then I have to wear it. Now we understand that the shoe industry can actually reflect upon how the performer or the performance is going to be. However, it has to be understood with study. Guess what? We did that. And that's why we are there unique, and we monopolized it because we're the only ones that can do that. So once we tap into, when you want to ask those other questions, we're going to get there because you're going to understand why it was that important. People don't understand the importance of shoes. Why do you wear shoes? You wear shoes to protect your feet, first of all. That's hands down. Because as we evolve as nature, we have different terrains. You have asphalt, grass, right? You have concrete. You have different terrains that you're usually dealing with. Now, as you become an avid athlete, or as you become someone that's in the profession of just running, walking, or standing, you are now paying attention to what you're putting on your feet. We don't pay attention to our feet until what happens? Until we get injured.
Yeah.
You never pay attention to your feet until it hurts. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
So you had this research study, and so you got this idea, and what motivated you to start this business? Like, so, can you share like the story where did you, like, you personally, where did you start? How did you learn about this specific idea, and spend all this time developing this design and bringing this design to market? Can you share that story? Hello.
This technology came from my father. My father is the one that came up with it, Dr. Etienne Penka.
Okay.
And he came up with this technology based on what he experienced himself. And so to really truly understand how this technology came about is to understand where the inventor came from.
Okay.
So let's understand the history. So we're going to step back a little bit. We're going to take a little storyline, right?
Okay.
So here we go. We're going to take a storyline going back to Cameroon.
Okay.
Yes, that's where everything started. My father was a professor at the institute, and he was teaching athletes to become professional athletes. whether it was on a professional level, Olympic level, it doesn't matter. He was there, he was teaching them. Now, he got injured. Warming up, he was just warming up on a regular day like anybody else does, and he dislocated his patella and it shifted. Now, being very knowledgeable in the science and everything that he does, he knew what his injury was. And so when the rehab had to happen, there was a person that came in for rehab and asked him, like, well, you're very knowledgeable in what you're doing. Why don't you further your studies? He says, well, how am I going to further my studies? He said, well, you got to further in the United States. He says, well, I don't speak English. I can't write English. I don't speak English. What do I do? So the $1 million question that everybody asks me, like everybody does, is, well, Olguy, your last name is Songolo, and your family's last name is Panka. I always get that. They ask me that 1 million times. And so I have to explain it all the time, and why my name is Songolo and my family's name is Panka. So
what
here
is
it is.
Yeah, okay.
Are you ready? Yeah, of course. I got to get to you now because you're curious. Everybody's curious. So Dr. Aliko Songolo is the one that helped my father to translate everything on his documents to move it to where he could come to the United States, where he attended Boston University, do his master's and his doctoral studies at the same time.
Okay.
And it's an honor to give a name to someone that helps you. It's an honor, it's a privilege. And you can understand that being from someone that understands about culture, correct?
Yeah.
So that's where Songolo comes from.
So you were not, I'm assuming you were not born at that time. You were born later.
No, I was born in Cameroon. I was born in Cameroon, 100%. I was born in Cameroon. I came to the United States very, very, very young. I came to the United States in a year and a half, but I was born in Cameroon.
So did your dad change your last name? Like, so initially it was the original last name, but he changed it?
No, he didn't change.
Okay.
My last name was given to me right at birth. It wasn't changed.
Okay,
Yeah,
so you were born later, like after
yes.
Okay.
He gave me my name right at birth. It was not changed. It was right at birth. He said, this is gonna be your name and this is what's gonna happen. And it made sense, 100%. And I always have to clarify that because with a lot of podcasts and a lot of TED Talks and a lot of things that I do, people always ask, why is your family's name Panka and you are Songolo?
Interesting.
So I always have to clarify that very quickly.
So your dad came to the US to study, and you came along with him.
And he came here under a Fulbright scholarship.
Wow.
Fulbright.
Okay.
Yes, came on a Fulbright scholarship. He did his master's and his doctoral studies here in the United States.
Wow.
And that's what led us to understanding where the shoes come from. So as we matriculate through the story, I will tell you this. Once we were here, my father wanted to understand, as an avid person that was an athlete and a runner, why are we still getting injured? Why are we still getting injured? Think about it. So he says, all right, well, is it the way we run? Is it the way what we wear? Or is it the way we land? So what he did, he took a camera, and I kid you not, I was still young, I was with him at the Charles River at Boston University. My dad would take a camera, go right there at Charles River and record people running, just their feet and their landing pattern.
Okay.
You understand me?
Yeah.
Yes. And based off of that, he realized that there was a problem on how people are landing related to the musculoskeletal injuries of what they're facing.
Okay.
So on that stance, he said, well, I just realized something. Our shoes that we're wearing is a problem. Our shoes don't allow us to land the proper way that we're supposed to. And how did he come up to that point? He said, well, let me do this. And you're about to laugh. He took a pair of his shoes and he cut off the heel. And he went out for a run.
Okay.
Came back, said, wow, this feels good. He says, okay, well, let me see if this feels the same way for everybody else. And what he did, he cut off my shoe. Now, I have 3 sisters. I'm the youngest. Okay. So imagine I'm waking up, getting ready to go to school. I'm waiting to see my pair of shoes, and I see a heel cut off. I'm like, Dad, what's going on with my shoe? He's like, just take it and go to school. I'm like, what do you mean take it and go to school? Just take it and go to school. I'm like, okay. So I put on the shoe.
I mean that's really the invitation to get mocked by your.
Of course. I went to. Everybody was laughing at me. Everybody was laughing at me. It was. It was like, what's wrong with you? You can't afford shoes. You're already African. I'm like, no, it's not a problem. I came back. My father said to me, he said, how were the shoes? I said, what? The shoes? You worried about the shoes? I got laughed at. He says, but were you comfortable? And I was, but I didn't realize it. So he said, hey, if my son at this age can be comfortable with this shoe, let me see how it is going to be with his sisters and my mom. And my mom was working in a nursing facility at the time. So she was on her feet for 12 hours a day.
Okay.
Did that study. Came back. Great. He said, all right, we got to file a patent. I have something.
Okay.
And then he did a cross-cultural study. My father traveled and I was with him. That's the reason why I dibber-dabber on certain languages. So we went where did we went to Spain. We went to France. We went to Cameroon. We traveled everywhere because now he wanted to know if this removing the heel can help athletes land better and reduce the amount of injuries that they have. So once that happened, came back and said, oh, this is something.
So I guess, yeah. So I guess my question would be, if and was all the results like documented in a research?
Of course, it was a research study.
So my question would be, because I know a little bit about how you finance your business, right? I believe it was mostly your own personal investment.
Yes, we did everything ourselves.
So my question would be, why didn't you go pursue like more of institutional funding, like angel investing or venture, when there was some proof, like from your dad was at Harvard?
Boston University.
So whereas like this proof of result of this product really solving a big problem and really disrupting the shoe industry, like someone can say when you bring this to them that okay, this seems like an interesting idea, maybe it's going to require some education of the market, but maybe worth interesting because the upside seems huge. So why haven't you tried like getting funding for your business? Was it more of a personal decision or?
No. So honestly, once we actually came to fruition as far as bringing in production, what ended up happening is we had a couple of investors that came at us and said that they wanted to invest in the company, but they didn't see the growth. They were so busy on taking equity.
Okay.
And that's what kind of deteriorated us from trying to deal with anybody else, because we did this ourselves. I lived in China for 1 year by myself, family funded. We didn't take any funds from anyone else or loans, and we did this as a family. So as an investor coming in, it's more in the sense of, well, do you believe in us? 1, do you see where we're about to go? 2, and what are you bringing in? Because a lot of investors just wanted to just take. Well, we want to have this. We want to do this. Tell me what you're bringing. I worked hard. My father worked hard. Our family worked hard to get to this point. We are the only shoe that has a heelless technology scientifically proven to eliminate plantar fasciitis. Do you understand me?
Yeah.
No one in the world can do that. No one. And we're now doing a doctoral study research that's going through another university that's going to allow us to actually help diabetics with neuropathy phase 1 and phase 2. So why haven't you had investors? It's because, well, some investors are very greedy. Let's be honest. I'm not going to say they're sugarcoated. And I'm young. They see a young entrepreneur. that came up with such an amazing idea, they're like, okay, well, he just wants money. No, I want someone that's going to bring in ideas and not just capital. Come in with ideas, come with capital, and also come in with how we scale, because that is what it is. My father created a shoe that eliminates half the musculoskeletal injuries that you are experiencing. And now it taps into diabetics. Whoa, why wouldn't you be excited? like boom, it's a boom. Let's get into it. Let's dive into it. But then you're dealing in the world of business. So it's like, okay, the world of business, well, I want a piece of the pie. You got to deal with that. And I respect it. But here's the thing. The pie is 360 degrees. Don't try to take 180.
Okay. I mean, I want to get to the most interesting part of your story, which I'm personally very interested in, is really the prototyping design process and your visit to China, finding the supplier, and really getting this to the different versions, the product that you're selling now in market. Can you share a little bit about, so you thought that, okay, this I can create this product. What did you do next? Like, how did you find the supplier in China, and what motivated you to go to China? And you said you lived there for about a year?
Yes, I lived there for a year. How did I find it? So let's be completely transparent. God found it.
Okay.
Yes. I didn't know nothing about shoes, suppliers, industry. No, I did not. But what I did do is I did a lot of research and I stayed up a lot of nights. So here's the reality. Number one is I live in Massachusetts. So we're on the East Coast, and dealing with any manufacturing company in China, you're dealing with a 12-hour difference, 13 hours depending on the time zone, and then when you go through time changes, correct? So I had to literally talk to manufacturers every day. Every day. I went through over 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, over 100 manufacturers just trying to talk to them, because I had to be up at 2 o'clock in the morning to talk to them because of the time difference.
And are these manufacturers, did you find them through Alibaba or different platforms?
No, I literally looked them up through Google.
Okay.
And I was reaching out to them. We started off by Skype. Now that we have innovation, right?
Were they able to speak English?
Some of them did, some of them didn't. Yeah, now I speak Mandarin, so I can have that conversation with
you. Oh, you can speak Mandarin?
How? I can have that conversation now.
In 1 year, like you can.
I hired a tutor. Oh, you don't understand my story. I hired a tutor.
Okay.
To come and teach me from the University of Xiamen, to come and teach me, because I speak French, I speak English, I speak Spanish. Like I'm not just a simplistic person.
Okay.
Yeah. And so for me, it was more in the sense of I want to understand, like, how do I get to this point? And how do I get them to work with me?
So the teacher was in Massachusetts, or was it in China?
I'm sorry?
The teacher that you hired for the language learning?
No, I was living in China. I was in Xinjiang. Okay. Yeah, I hired one of the students from the University of Xiamen, which was literally 45 minutes from Xinjiang, where I was doing production. Yeah. Yeah.
So you spoke to these suppliers, and you ended up striking a deal with one of them.
Yes. And the reason why I went with him was because every other company that I was dealing with, they were just more plugged in on just trying to get money from me. They just wanted, all right, send us the money, send us the money, send us the money.
Yeah.
Man, are y'all understanding what I'm trying to do? And so when I met this one supplier, he said to me, he's like, can I see it again? And I showed him the prototype. He says, you have to come here. That was he said,
did you build the prototype in the US? How did you build the prototype?
I made the prototype in the US.
Okay.
Yes. And it was expensive.
Okay.
That's why I was like, I can't prototype an actual sample production of this. It was too expensive. And that's why I was like, yo, where's the hub of production? That's why I started looking at China and other countries. But China is the hub of production when it comes to shoes. Let's be honest.
Yeah. So,
And
so
I
the
said,
prototype itself, sorry to interrupt you. So the prototype itself, it's because it's very interesting because, I mean, this is the real process. And I'm very, very curious to know, like the prototype, did you actually get some like someone's help to create it, or did you create it yourself?
myself.
Okay.
I
Which,
didn't get no one's help.
on a software, or how did
Yes,
you?
I did it on myself. I didn't get no one's help. Whose help was I going to get? I did
Okay.
it myself. I grinded it out and I got it done.
Okay.
hmm
So you had the prototype and you found the supplier.
Let's step back. I
Okay.
had my dad's design from what he did for his dissertation and his patent. So
Okay.
I already knew what it had to look like. I took what he did and I turned it into an actual prototype.
Okay.
It was quite challenging because he had a lot of details in his prototype. And you can Google it. You can just type in Dr. Penka, Healer Technology, whatever, you'll see it. What I had to do is make it aesthetically pleasing.
Okay.
That was the biggest challenge for me. Because I'm like, how am I going to turn this to make it look good and to the point where you're going to willing to pay this price point as it solved your problems?
Okay, makes sense.
Go ahead.
So the supplier said you have to come to China, and did you go there with the plan that you're going to stay there for a year, or did you?
No,
You were
absolutely.
thinking that okay.
I went to, oh man, you're about to have me in tears a little bit because every time I talk
No,
about,
I'm very interested in this. Yeah, I mean,
not because I'm gonna get emotional. I'm gonna get emotional. Hold on 1 second. VP, VP. All right, cool. Just making sure you're there. I had to check sure if she's there. So when it was time for me to go to China, I did not know where I was going into. Okay. And this is the emotional part of it. So please excuse me if I pause sometimes, because every time I talk about it, it still hits me on an emotional level, just to be honest. I was supposed to be there for 3 weeks. 3 weeks. And I ended up being there for a year. I'm gonna say it again. I was supposed to be there for 3 weeks, and I ended up being there for 1 year. So first, I had to get visas for business and everything, and it was quite a challenge to get that. I didn't know that. I didn't know I had to get a business visa, deal with the manufacturer. I didn't know that. So that process alone was already difficult as I was doing it. Okay. Now moving forward, once we got everything situated, I'm in China.
Okay.
Here I am.
And you don't speak the language, and you don't.
I don't speak the language.
Know
I don't
the
understand the
culture.
culture.
Okay.
Here I am as a black guy. I don't know nothing. I just want to get a shoe done. That's all I want to do. So here's the reality. I didn't get my first prototype done of the shoe. It didn't work out. It was a disaster. And then my designer left me.
The supplier left you, or?
No, my designer, not my supplier. My supplier is in China.
The designer who
the
did
designer, the one that was designing the shoe with me, that we
Okay.
did everything together. He
Okay.
left. He left me. He was like, I can't stay here no more because the conditions that we were living in were a little bit difficult.
Okay.
He left me.
So the designer was different from the supplier.
Yes, of course.
And you were working together with him in the supplier factory, or?
100%.
Okay.
And he left me.
Okay. I assume you were paying him, or was he working for you?
Yes.
Okay.
And he left me.
Okay.
He left. Like the next day I woke up, I'm like, where is he? Gone.
Okay.
Gone. You saying okay? No, it's not okay. He left me. You understand what it means to be left alone in a foreign country, and your designer is the one that's going to help you with your production of what you're trying to establish?
Okay.
He left. So now at this point, I'm like, whoa, I'm by myself.
Did you have his phone number or something? Did you try to call?
No, of course, I know him very well, but he left. The fact that he left is what threw me off.
He abandoned you.
Understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay.
So for me, it was more in the sense of, wow, what do I do? And I understood why he left. I wasn't upset or mad at him. It was just more in the sense of, damn, you really just left me with myself.
Mm.
Think about it. Think about if you go anywhere in the world and you meeting someone and you relating to them and they're like, okay, good.
Yep.
You wake up the next morning and they're gone. How you gonna process that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. See, you say, yeah. You're not gonna process that. It's gonna take you a while. It's not easy. So that's what happened to me. And I'm like, wow, you just left me and I still gotta produce a shoe.
So he left you within the first month, or
Mhm.
okay. So what did you do next then?
So what I did was I tried my best to produce a prototype of what I thought would be a shoe.
Okay.
That's what I did because now I was stuck. But I said, okay, we got to figure it out. So I said, all right, let me try to produce something that I think might be a shoe. And once I did it, I sent it over to my father. And my father called me up and said, Olguy, this is not my shoe.
Mm.
Yeah,
So
that was
technically that was not right.
it was not
Okay.
technically. I mean, design wise, it was
Yeah.
not the shoe. It was
Okay.
not. And my father said, this is not the shoe. He said to me, come back to the United States and we'll try to see how we can make a better version of the shoe.
Okay.
To be honest with you, I heard the disappointment in his voice.
Okay.
You understand me? You
Mm.
understand the disappointment when it comes to family? I heard the disappointment in my father's voice.
Mm.
And my mother's in the background saying, it's okay, it's gonna work out. And I'm hearing the disappointment on both their voice. And I'm like, you sacrificed everything. And I can't even produce a shoe. So at that point, I said, okay, got it. We hung up on the phone and I couldn't sleep.
Mm.
I called my dad the same day and I said, Dad, he said, yes. I said, I'm not coming back to the United States. He said, what? I said, I'm not coming back to the United States. He said, what do you mean you're not coming back to the United States? I said, I'm going to make the shoe the way you want it.
Mm.
I'm not coming back until the shoe is exactly the way you want it. So at that point, we burnt out all our finances because remember, we're doing this. We don't have investors. We don't take in loans. We're not doing nothing. This is all family based.
Mm.
So when my father and my mother saw that I was serious, we came collectively as a family and said, okay, well, how do we solve this? How do we focus on what we're trying to do?
Mm.
And that's when we said, okay, you about to be in China for a while. And that's how I ended up there for a whole year. Because at that point, I said, now we got to focus on that.
So
That's a whole
basically
other
from
story.
there, there you basically created other prototypes and just refined the
That's
design.
That's it.
Okay.
I grinded. Failure is not an option for me. You understand?
So the reason I'm so interested in your China story is because anyone who's trying to create a product, usually the approach that they take is, they would contact the suppliers through Alibaba. Maybe they will send the design, and then the supplier maybe will create a prototype and send back the prototype for approval and feedback. So it's like they're doing this process, of course, through mail. And then once, or even if the design is known, it's usually done through mail. Do you recommend, like, what have you learned about China, like their manufacturing industry? Do you recommend someone to actually, if they're trying to create that product, initial product, is it much better to go there, stay there for a few months, do that in person with the supplier or manufacturer, and that way you are much likely to get a better result in terms of the product? Well, like in terms of your learnings, what would you recommend to other people who are trying to build products or trying to improve on a design?
I feel like it's always going to depend. It depends on what you're doing and to what level you want to scale. Everything's built on scalability. Let's be honest. oof, like when you deal in the market that I'm in, you have to realize on how far you want to scale. Not only that, but to who you're going to bring in. That's I created a shoe. My dad invented a shoe and I created a shoe that's like, whoa, we're doing a whole research study right now that's going to be FDA approved and Medicaid approved. Which we're disrupting innovation. And to disrupt innovation can cause controversy because a lot of people are going to say, well, what did I do? I thought I was doing things. Nah, it's okay to think that you did something that you're not doing, and it's perfectly fine. Because the reality is this: when I made this shoe, I made it and I said, "Whoa, this is a problem." And you pay some serious amount of dollars to put claims because to sit here and say, "Listen, this shoe with no heel, it's no heel." It has to get tested through Intertech. Intertech is one of the highest people that do the research studies based on where? Germany. Okay? I have a shoe that is going to be research study to eliminate plantar fasciitis, to help diabetics. Who's going to challenge me? But now the question is, it's not about who's going to challenge you. It's more in the sense of, well, how the hell did this little 36-year-old person came up with this? I didn't come up with it. My dad did. Back then, all I did was turn it into something that's functional, that looks good, because aesthetically, it looks good. Diabetics don't want to be looking like, oh, my shoe doesn't look good. No, they want things to look good. It looks good, aesthetically pleasing. You want to wear it and be part of what you are. That's what I'm promoting. And at the same time, you tell me what needs to be the next step. Because people do not understand what has to happen in order to scale. And that is what the difference does. We scale, we bring things to another level. You're doing it the same way too.
So now you have a product. So you created a product that your dad says, yes, this is what I intended for it to be.
Mhm.
How many shoes did you create in your first batch of production that you started selling?
We did 3,000.
3,000.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I guess, once you have the product, of course, and you're trying to bring it to market, the next part is marketing and promotion. How do you get other people to see or understand the benefit that you're trying to sell, the product that you're trying to sell, so that they can buy it, right? And start using the product. Can you share a little bit about those initial days when you launched the product, and even now, like, how are you marketing it? How are you getting the sales for people to buy this?
So like anything that you do, like any brand, right? It always requires you to market. And marketing is also based on a lot of things. Shout out. There you goes, my sister. Marketing is based on a lot of things. It's based on number one, who you're trying to target, right? Who you're trying to reach, and the validity of who you're trying to reach. So that comes into acquisition cost. What are you willing to spend to acquire a customer?
Yeah.
But based on what you're doing, you don't have to spend money to acquire a customer. I have a shoe that just, hey, your grandma now doesn't have back problems. Hey, you're no longer worried about your knee problems. Do I have to pay money to acquire you? No, I don't. If I have to pay money to acquire you, then that's just based on the fact that I want to scale at a very rapid level. And most companies that do that is based on the fact that they have competition. I don't have competition. I'm gonna say it right here in the mic. My only competition is myself.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. No other company could create a shoe. They have tapped into try to make a shoe without a heel, but they can't go into development because they're not going to infringe on our patents because we have patents.
Okay.
So what I can say is this: come up with an idea. Rather than fight, try to collaborate. Collaboration is going to be the best thing that you can ever do. Because when you collaborate, it allows you to be involved. And I've learned that a lot. Because for me, I want to collaborate. I want these to be everywhere.
Yeah.
Wherever you base out of, I want them to be there because we solved a problem that's actually a problem. It's a problem. It's a problem. Who wants to be standing on their feet having back problems? Who wants to be having knee problems, lower back problems, musculoskeletal injuries? And when you say musculoskeletal injuries, people start to say like, oh yeah, he's talking too fancy. Okay, well, it's this simple. Do you wear inserts? Oh yeah, I do. Do you have knee problems? Yes. Are you diabetic? Oh, yes. Oh man. Now you're tapping into something that makes a little bit more sense. So the reality is this: I went through the research and I'm still going through the research because we're actually still conducting it.
So,
And I want people, hold on, before I finish, I want people to know that we're going to solve this. We already started solving this. So the question that you're about to ask me is the question I'm about to ask you is let people know that we're here.
okay.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like, if you have a great product that is solving people's problem, more people need to know about it.
Absolutely.
And that's how they're going to buy it. So maybe you can share a little bit about. I know in the recent time, your business has really started scaling in terms of revenues and things like that.
Yes, yes.
What are some of the things you've been doing in terms of really driving those sales and growing your business? What other business people can learn from this? Um,
So driving your business, let me be honest with you. It's a trial and error. Let's be real.
okay.
It's definitely a trial and error because you have to find who and what fits into your business and can move for your business. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And when I say that in the sense of um, a lot of people think that it's just a matter of just, oh, you got a product, let's just push it out and do this. No, you have to be passionate about what you're into. I'll give you a clear example. We're having a whole podcast right now. You're passionate about it.
Yeah.
You're not going to reach out to me and find me and do all of this if you're not passionate. There's a certain sense of passion that allows you to do this. And I can reflect that. And when I see that, I'm like, yes, people reach out to me every day asking to do podcasts. And I can clearly tell you, I say no half the time. But I saw you and I'm like, I like your drive. I like what you're doing. I'm down and I will make sure that whatever you need, you're like, hey, can we do 7:15? Yes, we can. Because I was in that position where I'm trying to get to a certain level. I'm like, can we do this? And someone said yes to me. So who am I to say no? And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because you have a vision very clear. And you're, listen, real recognize real. My father always told me when someone's real, you can recognize it. You're a person that already has your stuff together, established. So what you're doing right now is to just grow and create growth. And I love it. And I want to be part of it. So whatever I can do, hey, tell me. And I'm privileged to be part of this because the honesty is when people reach out to me and say, hey, can I do podcasts? Can I talk to you? I said, you don't want to do this because you understand what I'm doing. You want to do it, you just put it in a portfolio and put it in the bank. You actually reached out to me because you're like, hey, I see what you're doing. I like what you're doing and I want to. And you reached out twice. My secretary reached out to me and was like, hey, he reached out on the Facebook page. I said, oh, okay, put him on. Let's go. And I said, I said, he's on. Whatever he wants, I'm going to talk to him now from now on. He's like, you sure? Yes, he's going to talk to me because I am that person. And I respect that. And that to me is what makes entrepreneurs and people grow. One advice that I will give to anybody on this once they see this. Number one, humble yourself. Be very humble. and be able to take advice and criticism. Human beings are not based on criticism. We don't like it
Yeah.
because it makes us feel like we're weak. Take it. Two, be okay with being okay. You understand what that means?
I think
Being
so.
okay with being okay means that, hey, I'm not making maybe $40 million like this other person, but I'm still surviving.
Hmm.
And the third, trust yourself and the process. Religion, I always say, believe in what you believe in. If it's God, okay. Quran, correct, okay. Buddha, okay. Wherever you believe in, believe in. But trust in the process and whatever you believe in, because that is what's going to allow you to give you the extra boost to go. Because the reality is this: I already know where this company is going to go. You know where it's going to go. You're a visionary. I looked you up. I'm like, oh, this guy is a visionary. You know where things are going to go. So when you do things, you're like, yep, I'm lining it all up. So let's get to that point. I do have a question for you, though.
Yes.
What made you want to start this based on what you've done in your past career?
For me, it's really about, uh, I think, two or three things. Number one, it's I like talking to people. I like talking to inspiring people, people who've done something, who are not just living life, on autopilot, right? Who
Okay.
have who have failed and uh, gone, even despite those failures, continuing being on a path. So I think that makes some people interesting, and I think I want to surround myself with those people. That's why I want to talk to those people. The other thing is, I want to share those people's stories, right, with others. And the third thing is, it's a great way to learn, right, by talking to others and seeing what they have learned through their trials and tribulations and failures and successes, and really to bring that to others who are on the same path, so that they can get inspiration from these stories and also learn from other people's failures. So I think those are some of the things. But the biggest thing is I like, talking to people and just hearing their stories and learning from them. So I think that's a big motivator for me. It's not, I'm not doing it just so, I'm trying to get some clicks or something. It's kind of like, I'm definitely finding it
No, 100%.
interesting.
100%.
But we're running out of time, so let me ask you this one question. Throughout this process of developing this shoes, if you were to think, there was one mistake that you made that you wish that you hadn't made, or you think that if you didn't make that, it would have really speed, accelerated the time, um, that it took you to bring the product to market, what would that mistake be, and what can other people learn from it?
Oh, great question. Uh, wow. To be honest with you, not a mistake, because uh, doing these shoes to the ability that they had to be and to the perfection that they had to be, it took a lot of mistakes.
Mm,
So, because before you put a claim on a product that's scientifically backed up, you have to really know what you're doing, right? So there's really, I won't say there's nothing. There's always room for improvement, but what I would say is we did our due diligence and we did our scientific studies to make sure that this shoe does what it does. And I'm proud to say that since we've launched since 2016, we have no returns on our shoes.
wow, very
None.
interesting. Okay.
None. Everybody that wears this loves it. We've had exchanges in sizes because maybe something smaller and bigger, but no one's ever returned it and says, I don't like it. So think about it. We've sold over 2,000 pairs of shoes, and no one's ever said, we don't like it. We don't want it.
Hmm.
So I took pride in understanding, number one, what the consumer wants, but not only that, but also how to make a product hit. It's very important to me because I'm a consumer of products as well.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I like to wear things that look nice, whether it's glasses, watch, wristbands, whatever the case. I like to look good. Okay. So if I'm going to do that, then I have to be also not only a product of a consumer, but I have to also be able to deliver what my consumers want.
Okay.
So to answer your question, it was a matter of fact of just making sure that people wanted what they want and they got what they want and they're excited. We have no, I pride myself, no, we have, I'm gonna say this in the mic, we have no returns in our shoes since we've been selling over 2,000 pairs of shoes and no returns. Thank you.
That is great. So now we're going to move on to the rapid fire round.
Let's go.
I'll ask you a few questions and you have to answer them like in 1 or 2 words.
Let's go. Let's go.
So one book that you would recommend to entrepreneurs or business professionals and why?
The one book, real quick, Dale Carnegie, How to Make Friends and Influence Others. Boom.
Perfect.
Dale Carnegie. Yeah, it makes sense.
I've read that book
Yeah,
maybe
it makes
50 to
sense.
100 times. An innovative product or idea in the current e-commerce, retail, or tech landscape that you feel excited about? Any product that you feel excited
honestly, and out of here, be real with you. It's real simple. Tesla. Boom.
Okay.
Yep.
A business or productivity tool or software that you would recommend, or a productivity tip?
Halo for software for education, because they provide all the resources that can actually help a student, whether it's on a doctoral, a master's, or an undergraduate level. Halo is very good.
Halo, Halo.
Yep, HALO. Yep.
Okay.
It's called Halo.
A startup or business in e-commerce, retail, or tech that you think is currently doing great things?
So I'm going to be a little biased on this. So I try to step away from from what I do on the technological side, and I try to step and see what's going on everything else. So there's brow therapist Cincy, and this is something that I didn't know. Women eyebrows. I didn't know women tattoo eyebrows. That's something new. I didn't know that. So the brow therapist Cincy is one thing that I saw when I was like, oh, women actually tattoo their eyebrows, and it actually is a thing. And they pay money for that. So that's one thing that I'm like, well, because I have 3 sisters and a mom, so I'm always going to encourage them to go that route. And she's doing a beastie job, 100%.
A peer entrepreneur or business person whom you look up to, or someone who inspires you?
Oh, that's easy. My father.
Okay.
Yeah.
Best business advice. I know you gave some business advice. Best business advice you ever received or you would give to other entrepreneurs?
Patient. It's not easy. You got to be patient. The grit, the grind is real. Be patient. You have to be patient. A lot of entrepreneurs want things to happen tomorrow, next day, right now. You have to be patient and trust the process. And when people say the process, I have to actually define the process. That's a whole conversation we could have in another conversation. But you have to trust on what's happening, but trust yourself, trust God.
Yeah,
and trust what you're doing. It's not going to be easy. I can guarantee it. I know I'm talking off of experience. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to happen in a day. But trust yourself and trust the process, trust God, and know that it's going to work out. Voila, c'est tout.
Great. So thank you so much, Olguy. Those were all my questions. I really appreciate you sharing your story. It's definitely very, very inspiring. spending some time with me today at Trip Talks. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. It's very inspiring. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I actually love what you're doing is inspiring. Continue it, continue growing it, continue making it sense to make sense. Because to be honest with you, as young entrepreneurs, myself and other people, they need people like you to give them a platform to feel as if they're being inspired, because we don't feel inspired. You know, we want to reach a higher scale. We want to be on bigger talk shows and this. But here's the reality. As any person always says, it always starts off small before it scales and becomes big.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
understand me? So
Definitely.
thank you. And you're doing an amazing job. And of course, I love the glasses. So we're going to keep it moving from
Thank
there
you. Thank you.
all
Thank you.
day.
Thank
You
you.
got it.
Appreciate it.